The King's Avatar, Chapter 1458 Hurricane Cannon, audio source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1458, Hurricane Cannon. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Huang Shaoshan's troubling rain had taken the initiative to retreat, but this time, it was Sumo Chung's turn to be relentless. Raising her cannon with both hands, Dancing Rain chased after Troubling Rain, following the path that he had taken. Even though Troubling Rain had vanished from her sight in the blink of an eye, her attack was still extremely decisive. Boom! The forest was filled with bright flashes from the explosions. It was already the last round, so there was no need to conserve mana, and on top of that, the launcher's normal attacks also did damage in an area of effect. The aggressive Sumo Chung had now turned into the destroyer of the forest, with her artillery barrage engulfing her path as she steadily chased in the direction that Troubling Rain had fled in. In the end, just as she had just reached the spot where Troubling Rain was hiding behind a tree, sword light flashed towards her. Huang Shaoshan had been called the Demon Blade, and this title was precisely because he was able to seize opportunities that others weren't able to notice, and could often launch attacks in situations which others deemed to be impossible. When he seized these impossible opportunities, the things he accomplished were always a little strange, and so after some time, the nickname of Demon Blade was born. At this moment, if not for the viewer's omniscient point of view, how many people would think that Huang Shaoshan, having just decided to escape and seeing Sumo Chung closing in, would instead immediately drop his original decision to quickly lay an ambush along the path that she was taking? Even though this new decision was a very logical one, Huang Shaoshan's reaction was simply too fast, catching everyone off guard. Of course, being fast could allow him to catch others unprepared. When this sword light emerged, Sumo Chung really was somewhat unprepared. The sword light landed squarely, and Dancing Rain staggered and fell towards the side. Collapsing Mountain. Troubling Rain brandished his sword, preparing to continue the assault, but once again, he was met face first with the mouth of Dancing Rain's cannon. Sumo Chung didn't become any less aggressive after forcing Huang Shaoshan to run. In this moment, her split-second reaction was to launch a counter-attack. "What have you been through? Why are your attacks so fierce?" Huang Shaoshan blew his top and shouted as Troubling Rain stopped his attack in mid-air. The collapsing mountain was changed into a falling light blade, and with a stroke, he fell towards the side. Boom! Of course, the cannon fired an attack. Though this attack was unable to prevent Collapsing Mountain from completing, Huang Shaoshan really didn't want to engage in any trading with Sumo Chung. "The one who wronged you wasn't me, right?" In the midst of the attacks, Huang Shaoshan was still sending messages. After dodging the cannon blast, the shockwave from the falling light blade was just enough to reach Dancing Rain. Dancing Rain was already rolling, using the knockback from the attack earlier along with the falling light blade's attack to cancel each other out. As she was rolling, a single grenade also rolled outwards. Huang Shaoshan was speechless, and could only have Troubling Rain jump and dodge the attack. He wouldn't be able to dodge the attack by moving forwards, so he could only retreat. "Blocking our road to the championship title. Is there any wrong greater than that?" Sumo Chung replied. "If you look at it this way, you've also wronged me considerably." Huang Shaoshan replied. Troubling Rain jumped nimbly backwards just enough to dodge the explosion from the grenade, and retaliated at the last moment. Headwind strike. Troubling Rain jumped forwards, his body spinning in mid-air and dodging one of Dancing Rain's artillery shells. Immediately after, sword light condensed into a circle, flying towards Dancing Rain. This one sword was quite a strong move. In close-quarters combat, no matter what, the Blade Master would reign supreme, not the launcher. Suma Chung had used her aggressive performance to suppress Huang Shaoshan. To be suppressed by a launcher in close-quarters combat was a disgrace, and even to normal players, it was embarrassing enough. But as for the esteemed Sword Saint, even after being bullied like this, his mental state was still calm. He had a very clear understanding of what capital Suma Chung had to rely on. She was aggressive, but there was a reason that she was aggressive. Suma Chung didn't just decide to fight head-on and charge for no reason, taking her launcher to be a knight. The disparity in health between the two was what allowed Suma Chung to make some decisions in close-quarters combat that would normally be disadvantageous to her. As for Huang Shaoshan, because of his health disadvantage, he had no choice but to dodge these decisions, and gradually, it looked like he was in a difficult situation. And now, knowing that Suma Chung would fight in this manner, he also calmly made his decision. He would avoid playing into Suma Chung's intentions, and begin his attack from there. Headwind strike connected, and Huang Shaoshan had Troubling Rain use Rising Dragon Slash. This blade didn't hit Dancing Rain, but as Troubling Rain rose in the air, he narrowly avoided another attack that Suma Chung had sent towards him whilst she was stumbling. Oh oh oh. The entire crowd saw this thrilling moment and cried out in surprise. The Rising Dragon Slash bruffed Troubling Rain behind Dancing Rain, and at that moment in midair, his body twisted. Falling Phoenix Slash. His body didn't twist completely at all, and this Falling Phoenix Slash was awkward and ugly, but the sword light accurately chopped towards Dancing Rain's head. On top of that, she still hadn't regained her balance from the stumbling that the headwind strike had caused. This was the rhythm of a professional player at the apex of glory. The difference between them and a normal player was clear as day. If it was an ordinary player, they wouldn't be able to combine a Rising Dragon Slash and Falling Phoenix Slash so quickly, right after Headwind Strike had completed. Slash. The sword light descended, and Dancing Rain was knocked onto the ground. The stadium was filled with applause. In the beginning, Huang Shaoshan being beaten up by Suma Chung had made him extremely anxious, but at this moment, it looked like Huang Shaoshan had found his rhythm. As Dancing Rain rolled, offsetting the attack, Troubling Rain's figure had already begun moving towards the side. Huang Shaoshan believed that Suma Chung would forcefully attack at this moment, so the path that he chose wasn't the fastest path to get close to Dancing Rain. Instead, he moved to a location that Dancing Rain wouldn't be able to attack while rolling. Pressing hard, but not pressing too hard. To a launcher, a class bad at close combat, a distance of 1, 2 or 3 steps could all be considered close quarters fighting, preventing them from displaying their ranged superiority. So now that Huang Shaoshan hadn't chased as closely, he was a bit further away from Dancing Rain, but Suma Chung was now unable to make her aggressive counterattacks. As expected, Huang Shaoshan wasn't such an easy player to take down. As Suma Chung rolled and tried to forcefully counterattack, she saw that Huang Shaoshan had unexpectedly controlled Troubling Rain to move towards an area that she couldn't adjust her attack to hit, and also understood what had happened in her mind. She knew that Huang Shaoshan had already made adjustments to his attacking rhythm. As such, after rolling, Dancing Rain rolled once more. Roll, 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 Dancing Rain rolled in an arc on the ground. Ha, is this some vulgar movement that you've learned from Fang Rui? Huang Shaoshan laughed. When one thought of Suma Chung's beautiful figure also rolling on the ground in a vulgar fashion like Fang Rui, it was certainly difficult to bear. Huang Shaoshan's words completely shattered the female goddess image in the blink of an eye. He wasn't particularly worried about such movement. Fang Rui was an opponent that they had researched for several years. Even if she had learned Fang Rui's dirty movements, it wasn't enough to catch an experienced veteran like Huang Shaoshan off guard. As he ridiculed her, he was actually carefully watching where Dancing Rain's rolling silhouette, paying attention to angles from which he could dodge her attacks before continuing to close the distance. In the end, just as Troubling Rain succeeded in drawing close and was preparing to attack, he heard a whoosh. The sound was a little bit smothered, and a bit long. It also seemed to have some kind of revolving sound, rubbing against the cannon's walls as it fired out. This is... Huang Shaoshan's brain flashed with understanding, but in the end, this skill appeared slightly faster than he was able to react. As the artillery shell left the cannon, a whooshing sound rang out. Hurricane Cannon. WhooshOurWorldAudio.com. A level 75 launcher skill. At this time, Huang Shaoshan had already reacted. He had Troubling Rain frantically dodged to one side, but it was already too late. Unexpectedly, Su Mucheng had simply indirectly fired this cannon shot at him while rolling. After that whooshing sound rang out, a hurricane swirled up, with Dancing Rain's body as the center. In an instant, Dancing Rain was sent flying in the air, as the hurricane rapidly expanded. Troubling Rain, who was trying to retreat, was only able to take half a step before caught by the hurricane, and in an instant, he was sucked into it. That hurricane cannon shot was still drilling into the ground, frantically revolving. This intense hurricane seemed to come from the ripples on the body of the artillery shell. But how could Huang Shaoshan have the mood to appreciate this at this time? In the instant that Troubling Rain's body went out of control, he knew it spelt disaster. He already had no way of controlling his character to do anything. The only thing he could do was to forcefully raise his field of view, and what he saw was Dancing Rain, floating in midair with the help of a cannon shot. He saw the pitch-dark mouth of the cannon aiming once more towards the hurricane, and aiming towards him. Boom. At the same instant that the hurricane cannon exploded, Dancing Rain's cannon sent a charged-up quantum bomb towards him. On top of the explosion, there was another layer of energy fluctuating out. The recoil from a quantum bomb was incomparably strong. If a character was standing on flat ground, they would have to take a step back in order to dissipate the recoil, or they would be flipped onto the ground. At this time, Dancing Rain had already charged up to this shot in mid-air. As she reached the highest point, she synchronized with the explosion of Hurricane Cannon, sending out the quantum bomb. With the strong recoil, Dancing Rain was just like an artillery shell, rocketing through the sky. All of this was clearly seen by the crowd. But what about Huang Shaoshan? After one round of explosions, his field of view was completely covered with the light and thick smoke from the explosions. What about Dancing Rain? After freeing himself from the explosions, he quickly swept all 360 degrees around him, but he couldn't find her. On top of you, the viewers wished they could run up and pull Huang Shaoshan's ear to tell him, and as for Dancing Rain, she had already begun to fall at this point. The pitch-dark mouth of the cannon once more locked onto its target. She wasn't impatient to fire her shot, instead, she wanted to wait for a certain distance, to wait for a distance in which even Huang Shaoshan wouldn't be able to dodge in time. It's already more or less there. Su Mucheng had already made a precise judgment, and immediately began inputting her skills to attack, but all of a sudden, Troubling Rain, who had been looking in all directions vigilantly, suddenly raised his sword towards the sky. Piercing form. One blade dotted the firmament. Fine sword chi flew out, and the incomparably strong piercing form immediately wrecked Dancing Rain's figure in mid-air. Did he really not know that Dancing Rain was above him? Those who thought as much were underestimating Huang Shaoshan. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1459 Dangerous Opportunity. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1459 Dangerous Opportunity. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. To land the hit, Su Mucheng had Dancing Rain fall down to a low height, a height within a Blade Master's attack range. When Troubling Rain's piercing form came out, the high-priority skill disrupted Dancing Rain's positioning. She wasn't able to cancel her attack, and the artillery shell completely missed its target. Huang Shaoshan was unfazed. Troubling Rain raised his sword and leapt into the air. Sky-plunging blade, Immortal guides the way. Two skills, one after the other. In a normal player's hand, using these two skills in such quick succession would be unthinkable. The sky-plunging blade caught Dancing Rain and swung her towards the ground. By the time Immortal Guides the Way came out, Dancing Rain was positioned below Troubling Rain. The powerful blow-away effect made Dancing Rain fall even faster. This sudden push made Dancing Rain crash even harder into the ground, messing up her quick recovery timing. She tried to adjust it, but she wasn't able to in time. Dancing Rain hit the ground, her heavy armor crushing the branches beneath her. Both players lost a good chunk of health in this short instant. Troubling Rain had been hit by a level 75 hurricane cannon and then a charged quantum bomb. These two attacks had taken away 11% of his health. Dancing Rain took even more damage. The exchange started with Huang Shaoshan's ambush to headwind strike, falling phoenix/piercing form, sky-plunging blade, and Immortal guides the way. All of these skills dealt considerable damage, and all of them had hit. Dancing Rain had lost 18% of her health. In the end, Troubling Rain had 37% health left, while Dancing Rain had 71% health left. When the two started the round, it had been 63% to 100%. In total, Troubling Rain had lost 26% of his health, while Dancing Rain had lost 29% of her health. Huang Shaoshan had a slight 3% lead in terms of damage dealt, but that was meaningless. He had started out behind by 37%. A 3% lead didn't even make up for 10% of that number. Now, Troubling Rain had even less health, making it even more unfavorable for Huang Shaoshan. He could not afford to miss any more opportunities. As Troubling Rain fell, his sword swept towards Dancing Rain. Because Su Mucheng had messed up the quick recover, she had no way of dodging this attack. The strike would be from the back as well. Would she be able to avoid the follow-up? Sure. Another sword light fell, but all it hit was branches and leaves. Dancing Rain had rolled to the side, her cannon aimed coldly at Troubling Rain. Boom. Smoke rolled into the air. She was firing at nearly point-blank range. It wasn't possible to dodge it at this distance. However, Huang Shaoshan swung his sword faster than she could fire her cannon. He wasn't able to dodge, but his sword was able to strike Dancing Rain. Blood blossomed into the air. All Su Mucheng could see was red. Glory used these realistic details to let the players know of their condition. Dancing Rain was covered in blood, but what about Troubling Rain? The artillery shell exploded in his face. The smoke and fire engulfed him as he was sent flying away. But as he flew backwards, Huang Shaoshan sent out another strike. The sword light from sword draw split apart the smoke. By the time Su Mucheng noticed it, it was too late. Huang Shaoshan had used the smoke as cover for a follow-up. Su Mucheng had also wanted to follow up, but it was interrupted by the sword strike. After steadying herself again, the smoke in front of her had dispersed. She saw as troubling rain rolled across the ground and rushed back towards her. Boom boom boom. Soo-mu-chung fired 3 anti-tank missiles, attacking troubling rain while retreating. She had played aggressively, but it had been done with thought. Playing aggressive didn't mean that she didn't care about the distance between the two sides. When there was an opportunity to trade with Huang Shaoshan, she would engage in close combat with him. But if there was no such opportunity, she would try her best to pull apart the distance and wait for one to come. "You're running again?" Huang Shaoshan messaged. He had seen through Soo-mu-chung's playstyle and strategy. She had retreated because she wasn't able to see an opportunity to attack. These were the moments that Huang Shaoshan need to grasp. Troubling rain used it as a movement skill. He didn't take a straight path towards her, instead taking a curved path. It was a very smart method of dealing with aerial cannon. With aerial cannon, the launcher would be moving backwards. If the opponent gave chase from the front, it would be easy for the launcher to delay him. However, it was hard for the launcher to change directions while in the air. Thus, taking a curved path was effective against aerial cannon movements. But taking a curved path had its own problems. It required the player to cross a longer distance, so it took more time. Aerial cannon was fast too, so it made it harder to close the distance. As a result, taking a curved path could not always be done. It depended on the distance and the timing. Grasping timings was Huang Shaoshan's specialty. The triple-slash path was completely beautifully. The viewers could tell that Dancing Rain was trying to adjust her aim to catch Troubling Rain, but she was always behind all the way until Troubling Rain reached her flank. Upward slash. Troubling Rain made a simple slash upwards, but it was at a spot which the opponent couldn't dodge. Dancing Rain, who had been moving backwards with aerial cannon, was lifted into the sky. Soo-mu-chung had Dancing Rain aimed towards him. In reality, being in the air wasn't too bad for gunner classes because their firing produced recoil, allowing them to move in the air and disrupt their opponent's aerial control. However, as a pro player, just trying to escape wasn't all. They would always be trying to search for opportunities to injure the opponent too. You couldn't win a match just by running away. Soo-mu-chung moved her cursor, but there was no sign of Troubling Rain. Sewer. Another sword strike, dealing damage and keeping Dancing Rain in the air. Soo-mu-chung kept searching, but she was unexpectedly unable to find him. Vanishing Step. Vanishing Step was considered a peak glory technique. It required a player's intuition and technique to reach perfection to perform. Even in the pro scene, there were few players who could execute this technique well. It had always seemed to be a technique that only existed in theory. At this moment, Huang Shaoshan was using Vanishing Step to keep the opponent in the air, and if it continued, it was likely that victory would be his. But it's very difficult, Li Yibo said. Juggling a gunner class to death is extremely difficult, let alone a top-tier launcher like Soo-mu-chung. Let's keep watching. Pan Lin didn't seem to want to elaborate. This battle was too intense. The two sides were constantly going back and forth with neither side able to hold a dominant advantage. All sorts of brilliant plays were being displayed. Right now, Vanishing Step had finally appeared. Would Huang Shaoshan be able to keep this technique going against Soo-mu-chung? Would he be able to make up for the deficit with this play? Everyone looked at the sword in Troubling Rain's hands, at the sword light flying out from it. The sword light weaved across Dancing Rain, keeping her tumbling non-stop. But Soo-mu-chung seemed to have no reaction. As a gunner class, even just randomly attacking would make it very hard for the opponent to keep the Vanishing Step going. But Soo-mu-chung didn't do this. She just seemed to be looking around. WuxaWorldAudio.com Was she looking for an opening? Was she waiting until she could counterattack? Shouldn't her first priority be to get out of Vanishing Step? Wasn't Soo-Mu-chung being a bit too confident, thinking of directly going for a counterattack? Dancing Rain's health continued to drop. 1%, 3%, 9%, 4%. Attack after attack, dealing different amounts of damage. High, or low, or perhaps just to keep her in the air. All of them left marks on her character. Damage quickly accumulated as Dancing Rain's health fell rapidly at a visible speed. 60%, 50%. The difference between their health bars was closing. Still not going to move. Happy's fans were starting to have trouble sitting still. They had no idea what Soo-Mu-chung was thinking. Huang Shaoshan did though. He knew exactly what she was thinking. They were only paying attention to why Dancing Rain wasn't attacking. However, they didn't notice that although she wasn't attacking, she was constantly adjusting her weapon angle. Huang Shaoshan saw it very clearly because he needed to predict where Dancing Rain would be, which meant that he needed to see where her cannon was aiming towards so he could react and prevent her from escaping. Huang Shaoshan was aware of what gunners could do to escape from the air. However, Dancing Rain didn't attack, and it was making Huang Shaoshan feel exhausted. Soo-Mu-chung had anticipated Huang Shaoshan being on guard against her aerial movements. As a result, she kept moving her cannon to have Huang Shaoshan keep making adjustments. It had only been a few seconds, but the ordinary person had no idea just how focused Huang Shaoshan was. Vanishing Step was an extremely difficult technique that required a lot of concentration. And now, Soo-Mu-chung was making it even harder for him. This isn't right. When Huang Shaoshan realized that the situation wasn't right, he had already gone too far. He discovered that he wasn't able to keep up and adjust to Dancing Rain's tempo. For a keen opportunist like him, he had sniffed out an incredibly dangerous opportunity for him. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1460. Advance Bravely. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1460. Advance Bravely. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. What an opportunity. Even though this opportunity didn't belong to him, Huang Shaoshan couldn't help but feel excited at any opportunity he saw. Would Soo-Mu-chung be able to grasp an opportunity like this? While everyone else hadn't even realized what was going on, Huang Shaoshan was already beginning to worry about whether the opponent would miss the opportunity. No matter what, opportunity was always an exceptionally beautiful thing to him. She didn't miss it. Dancing Rain's swinging cannon opening suddenly steadied, and sparks flew outward. For the audience, this attack came too quickly. Even though they had been wondering why Soo-Mu-chung wasn't firing any attacks to give Huang Shaoshan some difficulty, this fire that now came from Dancing Rain still felt off. It was just this attack, but it caused so much difficulty. This one shot broke Huang Shaoshan's Vanishing Step. That wasn't all. After this shot, Dancing Rain gracefully twisted in the air, and where before she had seemed helplessly tossed around in the air, she now very steadily aimed her cannon right at Troubling Rain. Boom, 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 boom. The cannon fire was like a pouring rainstorm. Troubling Rain was instantly swallowed whole, breaking the Vanishing Step. Everyone discovered that they had underestimated that first shot that Soo-Mu-chung had fired. It had been the herald of the counterattack. In the blink of an eye, the situation had completely flipped on its head. How did this happen? Everyone was speechless. The Blue Rain fans in the stadium who had been cheering had issued a few sighs of regret at that first shot. But now that things were like this, it was as though their necks had been collectively broken. No sound came from them anymore. Boom, 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 boom. In their ears there was only the sound of Dancing Rain's cannon fire, eating away bit by bit at Troubling Rain's health. And Dancing Rain was using this combo to slowly fall to the ground. The whole offensive was completed while she was in motion, to restrict Huang Shaoshan to the point where he was completely helpless. It was clear how perfect Su Mucheng's control was. Huang Shaoshan was the kind of person who only need the barest hint of an opportunity to pull off a trick. 30%, 20%, 10%. Once a pro player established an offensive, the opponent's health could be cut down this quickly. Blue Rain's fans in the audience had grown pale. At 10%, the health bar became red, signaling the danger of the situation. But the combo still hadn't been interrupted, and Su Mucheng still had the initiative. A distance of 21 body lengths could still be fully covered by the cannon fire. Her firing line? Everyone was in a daze as they watched Dancing Rain attack. Today's Su Mucheng was so powerful, it had taken everyone aback. Keep fighting. Blue Rain's fans were furiously cheering on Huang Shaoshan in their hearts, but they didn't dare make a sound, as though any sound would distract him. "You're trying to take me down in one go." But before anyone distracted him, Huang Shaoshan was already distracting himself, sending a message in the chat. This was the talkativeness that so many people hated, but now that this sentence appeared, it instantly reassured everyone. The fact that Huang Shaoshan was still trash-talking meant that he hadn't given up yet. He was definitely still brimming with fighting spirit. He would definitely find an opportunity to counterattack. Blue Rain's fans were instantly filled with confidence and anticipation. And Huang Shaoshan didn't disappoint. Sword's divine judgment. A ring of sword energy rippled through the cannon fire, slicing through the shots with a series of booms. Sword's divine judgment. This wasn't a skill that could be adjusted with minute inputs. The only thing that could be controlled was the timing of the skill's start. To achieve this effect now, this was an opportunity that could be encountered but not begged for. Yet this was Huang Shaoshan, and he instantly seized the chance. Triple slash. With the bonus from Sword's divine judgment, triple slash became even faster. With 3 flashes of sword light, Troubling Rain finally broke free from the firing line that Su Mucheng had established. But Dancing Rain's cannon was still locked onto him. There was nowhere for Huang Shaoshan to dodge, and Troubling Rain only had 8% health remaining. For a launcher, this was low enough that one powerful attack could take him down. His options were limited: retreat and then find another chance to ambush. He might not get a better chance than the one he had now. His target was right before his eyes. Advance. Huang Shaoshan controlled Troubling Rain to charge forward toward Dancing Rain's cannon pointed at him. In his eyes, this wasn't just the character of an opponent. This was a struggle for the championship, and all obstacles need to be shattered with his sword. This was the path that could not be avoided. No turning back. Curving wind form. The skill was released carrying the boost from the sword's divine judgment. Faster. Fiercer. The sword energy retracted, and Dancing Rain had no choice but to crash into the tip of the sword, but the cannon in her hands was steady. This was the moment that would decide victory. Everyone stared with eyes open wide, watching the sword light and cannon fire meld together, shine brilliantly. On this stage, this was everyone's goal, their dream, their glory. Everyone. But only one person could be the last one standing. Su Mucheng, Dancing Rain. After a period of calm, she was the one who stood at the very end. Huang Shaoshan lost, Blue Rain lost. In the group arena, the choice of map had demonstrated how much they had prepared, but in the end, Happy had obtained victory. Was Blue Rain's performance bad? No one would think so. The players of both teams had performed excellently. But there could only be one winner. That was all it was. Su Mucheng and Huang Shaoshan walked out of their competitor booths together, to be met with a quiet stadium. This battles was undoubtedly the most fierce and exciting of all the group arena battles today. The entire fight had been conducted under extremely dangerous conditions, where one mistake could spell defeat. During the entire battle, the audience felt that they didn't even have the time to take a breath. Now that it was over, it was clear that Huang Shaoshan's performance was faultless, and there wasn't really anything to criticize about the performance of Blue Rain as a whole. But they had lost, and this ending made their hearts heavy. They had already lost an away game. Now, they were playing their home game, but they had still lost the group arena. With the new playoffs competition format, losing 1 point in the group arena wouldn't affect the team competition that much. But just from the current mood of the fans, it was clear that although it didn't affect the numbers much, people's emotions weren't so robotic. As the two players walked off stage, the ones who reacted first were Happy's fans in the west seating area. A thrilling process with victory as the outcome. Was there anything more they could ask for in this match? Happy's fans had full reason to go wild with excitement. Blue Rain's fans came to their senses after seeing Happy's celebrations. The team was already behind, they were already at the critical hour. As fans, how could they be so downtrodden? How could they spread their negative emotions so casually? They were Blue Rain's loyal supporters. They sat here today to wait for Team Blue Rain's victory. They might not be able to help the players on stage, but off stage, they could at least help the team keep their spirits up. Go Blue Rain. Quote, it wasn't clear who started it, but soon, the sound filled the entire stadium. All of the Blue Rain fans came together. Now wasn't the time to wallow in melancholy. The situation was serious for them, and so it was more important than ever to boost morale. We're only 1 point behind, the situation isn't too bad. And so everyone began to think this way. Of course, they hoped that Blue Rain's players would also be able to take this kind of mindset. The fans couldn't directly change the players' moods. They could only try and shape the atmosphere of the stadium to motivate the players. WashOurWorldAudio.com. They watched Huang Shaoshan, watched him return to Blue Rain's player area, watched as the other Blue Rain players surrounded him. I swear, Su Mucheng was hacking today, Huang Shaoshan said indignantly, standing in the middle. Everyone laughed. In the team competition, we also need to pay attention to her performance, said Yuan Zhu. Blue Rain immediately entered the rhythm of preparing for the upcoming team competition. They didn't speak a single word more about the situation of the group arena. We're only 1 point behind, the situation isn't too disastrous, was the mantra that the fans were using to re-establish their confidence. But on Blue Rain's side, there was no mention at all. Without wasting a single moment, Blue Rain was already beginning to plan for the team competition. They'd prepared before the match, of course, but in the stadium, there would always be minor adjustments depending on the performance of the opponents during the group arena. Today, for example, Su Mucheng's condition was exceptionally outstanding, so in team competition they would have to pay attention to her. Team Blue Rain was already entirely immersed in the rhythm of the team competition. What about Happy? After all, they had a number of rookies, and so it would be hard for them to match the mature mood of Blue Rain. But Yi Xiu didn't say anything to dampen their spirits after their victory. Keep up this momentum, let's crush them in the team competition, Yi Xiu said. Crush them. Facing Blue Rain, even Samsara wouldn't dare use this kind of wording. But Yi Xiu used it, and Happy's members didn't treat it like a big deal. Watch me, boss, Steamed Bun said, with unparalleled confidence. It's up to you, Steamed Bun, said Yi Xiu. "Of course," said Steamed Bun. He made all sorts of arrogant faces at Blue Rain's player area, with the look of a conqueror. "Good luck, Steamed Buns," everyone said. The break between the group arena and the team competition was rapidly drawing to a close. With the judges' signal, the players of the two teams began to enter. Everyone leaned forward to get a better look at the rosters of both sides. Blue Rain, Yu Wenzu, Huang Shaoshan, Lu Hanwen, Zheng Xuan, Zhu Jingxi, Song Xiao. Exactly the same as the previous round. Happy's side had some adjustments, though. Last round's Wei Chen, who had ties to Blue Rain, did not appear this time. He and Qiao Yivan had been swapped out with Tang Rou and Steamed Bun this round. Happy's team competition roster this time was Yishu, Su Mucheng, Fang Rui, Steamed Bun, and Wenyi, Tang Rou. Among them, it was unsurprising that the three all-star level players Yishu, Su Mucheng, and Fang Rui appeared. So far, these three players made the most consistent appearances, and Wenyi, of course, couldn't be left out of the team competition. So, when Happy made adjustments, it would be of the other two slots, and this time, Happy switched them both. End chapter.